Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. And inside of today's video, we've got 12 balance changes to go through. We're going to be going through all 6 brawlers that have received a buffy to each their gadget, star power, and hypercharge. And I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on how strong I think they're going to be inside of the meta. But of course, with so many changes happening inside of the game, it'll be near enough impossible to predict it right now. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, because when the update drops, probably around Tuesday, I'll be giving you guys the best meta information, breaking down literally everything, because the game is going to change a lot. So let's just dive into the buffs, starting off with the twins. The twins are receiving a hypercharge rate buff, going from 3.3 supers to get the hypercharge to 2.85 supers to get that hypercharge. So this is a nice change for twins. Just took so long to get that hypercharge, and it's not even that broken of an ability, so this will be nice and will definitely maybe even bumping up one tier. The next brawler receiving a buff is Colt. So Colt is getting his reload speed gear removed, and everyone's receiving compensation for that. But of course, Colt's going to get a lot worse, right? Removing 15% of his reload speed. They are buffing his reload speed, his base, by 8% to compensate for that. So you might be thinking, well, his reload speed gear is 15% reload speed. Well, that's probably because Colt's going to be really strong with all of their buffies, whilst pretty much every other brawler in the game doesn't have a buffy, right? So they don't want to overbuff Colt. Spike is also receiving the same treatment. His super slowing has been buffed by 15%, which, again, his mythic gear is getting removed, so you're going to get those 2,000 coins back. But before, this mythic gear would slow effectively 30% extra. So again, kind of halfway in between, because I imagine that Spike's going to be just so much better than pretty much every brawler in the game. Pearl is receiving another buff, and it's going to be to her maximum heat, how long it takes to get there. So right now it takes 11 seconds. I think this was buffed from 12 or 13 seconds in the previous update. Now it's only going to take 9 seconds to get your maximum heat. This just means that Pearl's lower damage is going to be just a lot better as well, and you're going to be able to abuse her gadget a lot better, her star powers. You're going to get that shield a lot quicker, and she's just going to ramp up so much damage. So on top of the health buff that every brawler is going to receive, and this, I think Pearl should be better, surely, right? And lastly, for the buffs, GG is receiving 2 buffs. GG is receiving a 20% damage buff. It wasn't actually reflected in the dev build, I believe, but 20% is quite substantial. And her main attack speed boost, so when you're, of course, when you're activating your main attack, you get that 10% speed boost, but now it's going to be boosted to 20%. So a lot of people are complaining about GG. Me, myself, I've not really had too much chance to really try her out, especially in ranked. I've been on vacation, so I'm not too sure where she lies. Some people think she's underrated, but it's quite clear, like at maximum she was like B or C tier in the meta. So a lot of people saying she's the worst brawler in the game. She definitely needed these changes. And also, Mortis isn't receiving a buff to his super speed, because his mythic gear was way too broken. So I'm glad that they actually didn't buff his super, because the mythic gear was just too strong. So yeah, just wanted to let you guys know. And finally, for the buffs, every single brawler inside of the game right now are getting some type of health change. There's only, I think, Mina, Hank, there's a few other brawlers that are not receiving any type of buff, but there's a lot of information. So pause the video, go through what you want to see. This is thanks to Supercell for putting this together. I weren't going to put like all of these data points into my own Excel sheet, because it will just literally have taken me hours to go through all of this data. But you can see by the column in the far right corner, you can see the increases in the health, which is going to be probably the most influential thing when you take a look at things. But there's just so much to go through. You can see probably the biggest one, like Lumi's receiving 11% health buff. You see brawlers like Barley, 12% health buff. Colt, 11% basically. B, 12%. You see as well, like Surge, a 10% buff. There's quite a few to go through, so let me know down in the comment section below whether you see anything nice. Again, it's pretty much impossible to predict how these changes are going to impact things, but a lot is going to shift in this meta, surely, with all of these changes. So now moving on to the nerfs, starting off with Meeple. Meeple is receiving a hypercharge rate nerf, going from 2 supers to 2.5 supers. It's quite clear that Meeple's hypercharge was just so easy to farm, and Meeple was one of the best brawlers in the world finals, so just going to show that this was definitely needed, and just the hypercharge itself is very, very toxic. So as a I always say, I don't think there's any point making a hypercharge rate 2 supers. I don't know why they keep doing that. Hopefully they fix it in the future, but this is a great nerf. Pam is also receiving a hypercharge rate nerf. Again, it seemed that Pam was just getting far too many hypercharges, especially in hot zone. It made it really difficult to take down a Pam once she built it up, because it only took 2.5 supers to get the hypercharge super. Now it will take 3.3 supers to get, so quite a substantial nerf. Basically a whole nother super to get this hypercharge, which is great. So yeah, she's going to be a little bit easier to take down inside of gem grab, hot zone, etc. Juju is also receiving a nerf to her hypercharge rate. Funny enough, it was only 2 supers to get her hypercharge. It's been nerfed to 2.5 supers, so this is another great change. Juju was just being abused way too much in the world finals, and I'm glad, because the hypercharge, we've had it for years, right? We don't want a hypercharge just completely dictating brawlers inside of the meta, so this is a good change. I still foresee her being one of the stronger brawlers still. Otis is receiving a nerf to his super charge rate. It is going from 100 to 90. So again, I tested this out both in the live build and inside of a dev build, and nothing changed, so I'm guessing there's a little bit of a glitch there. What I'm gonna guess, again, I'm completely brain dead at the moment. I couldn't work out what it was in terms of, I think it's just an extra hit. So right now it takes 13 hits to get his super. I think it's just gonna take an extra shot, which in reality is not gonna change too much, but it is still a nerf to Otis. He's still keeping his damage low, so I still clearly see Otis being one of the best brawlers in the game. And lastly, for the nerfs, Mina is receiving 2 nerfs. So it's funny because she's been nerfed to oblivion since the start, and she's still an S tier brawler. So her health is going from 7,400 to 7,200. So this is actually going to impact her more than it seems, because pretty much every single brawler in the game is receiving a health buff, whilst Mina's getting nerfed. So those numbers are going to change a lot. So I think that's probably going to impact her more than this health nerf. And both gadget cooldowns are going from 20 seconds to 22 seconds. I think the biggest problem is definitely the buster bubble, whatever you want to call it. It's just far too strong and probably better than the other gadget right now. So this is nice. 22 seconds is a long cooldown. I still see Mina being like a big problem in the meta. Maybe not S tier anymore, because I think some of these Buffy brawlers will probably be replacing her, but she's still going to be pretty strong. So now I'm going to be going through all 6 new brawlers that are receiving a Buffy, going through each gadget, star power, etc., giving you guys my opinion, and there's some reworks in there, so strap in, a lot of information to take in. Let's jump into Colt then. So Colt is receiving a gadget rework to speed loader. So speed loader used to reload 2 pieces of ammo straight away. Now it's going to fire 2 quick shots. It's actually got some good range to it and a decent enough speed, so it's going to projectile speed, so it's going to hit pretty easily, dealing 640 damage per bullet. But the main thing is that it slows when it hits an opponent, and then with the Buffy on top of this, it will steal 1 piece of ammo. So that's a pretty good gadget, not anything crazy, mainly because with Colt, like, I guess it could be pretty good in a 1 versus 1 situation. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see with this one. 15-second cooldown as well. It seems pretty strong. Silver bullet Buffy, it means that the bullet is going to be much bigger, and in total it will deal 2,040 damage with Colt. So I just assume that this gadget is just overall going to be better for Colt, mainly because you want to break open the map as much as possible. But this also just means you can confirm kills easier with Colt now. You might be able to use it a bit more aggressively, especially if, like, your, I don't know, so your aim's a little bit wonky. Well, this big bullet should be a guaranteed 2k hit. So I can see this one being pretty strong. Buffy for slick boots means every single time that Colt hits 1 projectile, he'll gain a small movement speed buff. So this is actually going to be pretty good for Colt, because it's very rewarding. The more shots you hit, the more you're able to juke out. It's basically a preference in playstyle again, which I really enjoy with Colt. So whether you want just the movement and get into people's faces, people are still going to use a slick boot. So I can imagine some really cool plays with Colt. And of course, more movement speed just means you're going to be able to get into range a lot easier. It's a very strong mechanic. I like this Buffy for sure. Magnum Special is receiving a Buffy, and with this Buffy, it means that longer in distance you shoot the opponents, the more damage you'll deal. So just think of it like Piper. The damage scales, basically. I don't know why I'm just making things more difficult to understand, but essentially at the closest distance, it will deal 720 damage per bullet, and then it will get 756 damage at maximum range. So that's not like the craziest damage boost in the world, but I just really like the Magnum Special ability with Colt already. So I probably foresee Magnum Special and Silver Bullet being the better overall setup, but I'm liking both star powers for sure. This is going to be some interesting builds here. And lastly for Colt, we have the hypercharge Buffy. So not only does the hypercharge impact his super, it'll impact Brawler's main attack as well with this Buffy. So Colt will be able to fire bullets much quicker in the hypercharge, and the duration has been buffed by 2 seconds. So you can see just how quickly you're able to hit opponents. You'll probably be able to shred people. Imagine this with the Magnum Special star power already. It just means like the bullet speed is going to be so fast. Yeah, I probably foresee, I would say, after taking a look at this, surely Colt is going to be like minimum A tier Brawler in the meta. There's just so many buffs, and especially with this hypercharge on top of this as well, maybe even S tier. So it's been a long time coming, but these abilities do look pretty strong. Now moving on to Shelly's Buffies. Overall, I think these are a little bit underwhelming in comparison to other ones, but hey, let's move on to her gadget Buffies then. So fast forward, if you guys didn't know, all gadgets are now aimable, and you can aim this fast forward dash to wherever you want, which is okay, I guess. And with this Buffy, it means that you're invulnerable whilst dashing. So think of it like Max's gadget. So that's one of the best gadgets inside of the game. So I can definitely see this one being strong. And because Shelly lacks range, this will allow her just to make more aggressive plays. I think it'll be a decent gadget. Clay Pigeons is next, and Clay Pigeons is getting even better because you get to use this 3 times per kind of activation of the gadget. So you can kind of hold on to these as well, which is pretty nice. And with the Buffy, you'll be slowing with each hit as well. So yeah, I think that's a very toxic gadget. Already Clay Pigeons was the best gadget overall. It's also got a slower cooldown on top of this. I just definitely see this one being a better gadget overall because of the slow. You know, you're slowing people. It means that you can combine it with your teammates. You know, you can just focus more damage onto them. You can close the gap on them as well. Yeah, Clay Pigeons looks very, very strong now. So now moving into the star power Buffies, and these are the ones that are a bit underwhelming to me because the first one is Shell Shock. So with this Buffy, you'll leave like an area of fire. So again, just like the Brock baseline incendiary now, and it only deals like 400 damage or something. I mean, I guess it's okay, but it's not really that great. I don't think it's really going to make any impacts. The second star power Band-Aid Buffy as well, it seems okay. I probably think this is the stronger Buffy overall in terms of star powers, because when you activate your Band-Aid, you'll get a 15% movement speed buff for 3 seconds. So not anything crazy, but this recharges every 15 seconds, the actual Band-Aid. So I probably see this one being a better one overall, mainly because the Shell Shock Buffy is very underwhelming. And finally for Shelly, we have the Hypercharge Buffies. So Shelly's Hypercharge Buffy, your attack projectile speed is greatly increased during Hypercharge. So this is going to allow you to hit shots, especially at maximum distance, a lot easier. You're going to be able to cycle super a lot easier. I think this is a very, very strong Hypercharge. Her Hypercharge super isn't the greatest, but now with the 7-second duration, yeah, this could be a very good one. So taking a look at Shelly overall then, I think she's definitely going to increase a fair bit in the meta. I don't think S tier, mainly because of the stop. I mean, she could probably be S tier because the Clay Pigeons gadget looks very busted, and the Hypercharge looks very strong on top of that. So yeah, I'm predicting easily high A tier, low S tier inside of the meta, and I think all Buffies are worth it outside of the star power. So gadget, Hypercharge, absolutely. So now moving into Spike's Buffies overall, there's some reworks to his gadget, star powers. There's a lot to dive into with Spike. Let's start off with his popping pincushion. So before popping pincushion would just shoot out spikes around him. Essentially, you'd want to get on top of an enemy or the safe and deal a lot of damage. But now it's pretty much impossible to really do that. I think like years and years ago, back in the dinosaur days when I used to play, it was very valuable. Now it's just completely power crept. So you can fire out some waves of needles that deal 1,200 damage, and with the Buffy, you will root the opponents if you hit 2 of those needles. So I believe there's 3 needles that hit, which can be, you know, got some decent range to it, especially because Spike has a slow reload speed. I think this could just boost his extra damage like every 17 seconds. This looks like a pretty good gadget to me. Spike's second gadget, Life Plant, is also receiving a rework and a Buffy on top of that. So now Life Plant is a throwable healing, whatever you want to call it, plant. So now you can use it to aid your teammates. You can use it to make aggressive plays. You know, for example, if you just want to throw Spike Cactus forward, use it as like a little bit of cover, so then you can close the gap onto opponents. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of versatility to this. I'm really going to like it. Only 14-second cooldown as well. And with the Buffy on top of this, you'll the Life Plan will deal damage to opponents and knock them back. So yeah, this gadget just got so many buffs in one. Throwable, knockback, deals damage. Yeah, this is going to be absolutely goated and surely has to be the go-to gadget. So now moving on to Spike's star power Buffies. And first off, we've got to rework 2 Spike's fertilized star power. Before, you'd throw it on yourself and heal yourself, but now it heals 50% of damage dealt. So I actually like this. Few people didn't like it, but again, it's another star power that's just been completely like relevant for a long time now. It just doesn't work that well with Spike anymore. I'm gonna miss it, but I think this is a good change. So fertilize, so basically you want to hit multiple people with this super, because you'll be healing for so much. So the more people you trap, the more healings you get. It can make Spike a lot more aggressive. I think people might underrate this one. And with the Buffy, your super projectile speed is deployed 30% faster. So yeah, quicker supers being thrown out, more healing. I think this could be an underrated one. So now moving into the second star power, Curveball, probably my most hated ability inside of the game. It's going to be even more toxic now, because with the Buffy, your curves will have extended range on top of it. So you'll be able to wall peek that little bit extra. So I'm going to guess that the casuals are going to find this way more like infuriating, especially if you don't know how to dodge Curveball. But the pros, I'm guessing there's going to be an easier pattern maybe. You'll have to let me know, but I'm guessing with like more range, just more points to like hide, if that makes sense, within the Spike curve shot. So I think it's going to be a pretty good stopper. It looks very toxic though, so I'm going to hold my judgment on it for now, but it has the potential to be very strong just by how much range it covers. So now moving on to Spike's hypercharge. So Spike's hypercharge Buffy looks pretty insane to me, because now instead of just throwing out 1 main attack per ammo, it'll be 2 spike needles per ammo, which looks very toxic. Combine this with Curveball, for example, yeah, double the damage. There is a little bit of a short delay after the first needle that gets thrown out, but it doesn't matter. The amount of area that you're able to control, I think it's going to be very toxic. And I can see after all of his Buffy abilities together, especially with Life Plant, that looks like a really strong gadget. Curveball having more range, especially like think of longer range maps, you're going to be very toxic at poking the opponents. And the hypercharge on top of this, I don't really see a way how Spike is an S tier after this. Too many abilities have been buffed. He looks very, very good now. So now let's move on to all the Buffies for Mortis, and also a bunch of reworks to his kits overall. So let's start off with Combo Spinner. Combo Spinner is receiving a rework, so now you can aim this gadget, which will just allow you to wall peek that a little bit better. It's also only 10-second in cooldown, which is pretty crazy. And with the Buffy, you will deal increased damage to low health targets. So I forgot to test this out in game, but I just imagine this just going to make him even deadlier against a squishy opponent. So this could be the better gadget overall now, especially because of the long cooldown on the second gadget. So now moving on to the second gadget. So it's been completely reworked. Before, it used to double the reload speed for 5 seconds or something like that, which was always going to be the better gadget overall. That's probably why they've just completely reworked it for now. And it's a new one which looks very toxic, but it's got a big cooldown, 24 seconds. So now you can fly through walls or whatever else. Yeah, RIP throwers, by the way. Poor throwers, just the amount of assassins they have to deal with. But if you hit someone with your bat, you'll deal 1,520 damage. So I don't think this is going to be a very, very toxic gadget. I think it's got the longest cooldown in the game, if not one of the longest for sure. But it is very warranted because this looks like a completely broken ability. Just invulnerability, basically, with Mortis. I don't know, say someone's got a really threatening ability, you can just pop this gadget and just evade it, go through walls. Yeah, it's going to be very fun, but very, very toxic. And with the Buffy, you will heal and deal damage when you pass through them. So, yeah, I don't see a world where this gadget isn't broken. So now moving into the star power Buffies for Mortis, starting off with Creepy Harvest. So this one looked very broken in Brawl Talk, still has potential to be pretty strong, we'll see. But with Creepy Harvest already, you'll just restore 20% of your maximum health when you kill someone. But when you do defeat someone, you will gain 500 additional maximum health until you are defeated, and it stacks up. So if you get 4 kills, you get an additional 2,000 health, and if you keep killing people, yeah, it looks and sounds pretty toxic, but only 500 health, which is a big positive. I thought it's something like 2,000 health. That would have been a big problem. I'm still scared about this one personally, but there are some downsides. Like I say, if you die, you lose that health buff. If you score a goal in Brawl Ball, for example, you lose it. In other game modes as well. Yeah, I just think yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm scared, to be honest. I don't want to say it's broken just yet, but it might be. Coiled Snake is receiving a Buffy as well, and this one's pretty interesting. So whenever you dash with Mortis, well, you get your longer dash 2 seconds faster anyway, so I really like that about it. But when you dash, you get a 40% damage reduction shield during the long dash. So that's just going to be it's going to make you much more tankier. It's going to allow you to make much more plays, and it's going to be harder to defeat Mortis during his dash. I think there'll be some cool plays around this one. I'm on the fence about both of these star powers, but what I will say is that both of the Buffies look really strong. And finally, moving on to Mortis's hypercharge Buffy. So with his main attack, when he uses his hypercharge, a phantom will hit the same area after a short delay. So it just means that you're going to be dealing more damage, especially when people are grouped up and we don't know what's really going on. Yeah, you're going to just be able to ramp up the damage a lot. But one thing I will say is that the hypercharge super Mortis has been massively nerfed because the mythic gear has been removed, and they've not buffed Mortis's super speed, projectile speed, to compensate for that, which I'm very glad they did, because you could just snipe people like crazy. That was way too cheesy, and I don't know why they left it so broken for so long. So all in all, how strong will Mortis be in the meta? I'm very unsure, because he's a very easy assassin to counter when you think about it, but he's also just going to run rampant inside of a ladder. So I anticipate him 100% being minimum beta in the meta because of all of his abilities in total, but not a whole lot of them sound too cheesy. Creepy Harvest has potential. Creature of the Night, super long cooldown, and the hypercharge attack doesn't sound too good. So I don't think he'll be as maybe broken as people will think. So now let's move on to Frank's Buffies, and boy does Frank look pretty broken after all of these changes. It's received quite a few reworks with his kit overall. Let's start off with active noise cancelling. So now, as seen in Brawl Talk, it fires a sound wave which will deal 1200 damage, and he'll still be immune to any type of crowd control for 2.5 seconds, so that is pretty cool. But what the sound wave also does, it destroys enemies' projectiles as well on top of that. So if it's a Brock shot, Piper shot coming at you, you can just throw out the sound wave and completely destroy the projectile. So this sounds pretty toxic, to be honest. Second gadget, Irresistible Attraction, is also receiving a rework. So it no longer deals double the damage. It will now have a much longer range, which you can aim on top of that. And with a Buffy, you will slow them for 5 seconds, guys. 5 whole seconds of slow. This gadget looks completely broken. It's 5 seconds. Who even thought of that? It does a little bit of extra damage as well. It is a very, it might be a hard hard gadget to hit, sorry, but if you're up close already with Frank, this just has potential to be really good. I'm scared of Frank's Buffies. So now moving on to Frank's Power Grab Buffy, and boy does this one look very strong as well. So this is the star power that people use anyways. So on top of his increased damage for 12 seconds, he also, when he defeats someone, heals for 4,480 over 3 seconds. So you could, if you get a team, I mean, it doesn't matter about them, but you get what I mean. You could heal a lot. If you get 2 kills, you're basically healing for 9,000 health, which is absolutely insane. That is crazy. Just 1 kill is nearly 5,000 health. Yeah, how Frank meta. And then moving on to Frank's second star power, Sponge. Boy, does this one look annoying as well. So Frank's star power already just gives him 1,400 extra health, but the Buffy will make it so Frank receives a shield, which will give him a 15% damage reduction. So when he's above 50% health, by the way. So he just always, he's got to be so tanky. Imagine behind him, any type of healer, he is not going to die. I'm going to have a difficult choice picking both of these star power Buffies because both of them look insane to me. So on top of 2 really strong Buffy gadgets, 2 really strong Buffy star powers, he's got a really strong hypercharge Buffy as well. I think Frank is easily going to be the best brawler inside of the game. It's going to be my prediction because his hypercharge attack speed is increased to max whilst Frank is hypercharged. So he doesn't gain the additional reload speed that he gets as well normally when he's low in health, but he can still spam out attacks so quickly. The hypercharge duration buff as well, 7 seconds. It means that you can probably get 7 or 8 shots off by the time this hypercharge expires if you don't want to use this hypercharge super. So yeah, I think after all of these Buffies, I think every single one you'll be wanting to get because they look really strong. Yeah, Frank to me, easily going to be the best brawler inside of a game. So now let's move on to the final brawler that's receiving a buffy. It is Ems, and Ems has been needing some type of rework circuit for a very long time. She's been stuck in the D tier, F tier in the meta for years now. For the casuals though, she's still pretty strong, so that's why they've not really been buffing her. But anyways, let's jump into her buffies. So starting off with Friend Zoner. Friend Zoner now is an aimable gadget which will push back enemies at a distance, which seems pretty strong. On top of this, you will stun the opponents for 1 second if they hit a wall. So not only do you just have more breathing space with a bigger pushback, and just you're able to like predict opponents a lot easier. Say if Mortis is dashing into you, don't have to wait for them to literally be on top of you already. You can push them back preemptively, which is pretty nice. And with stun, this is going to be a really good gadget. So now moving on to Ems' second gadget buffy. Acid Spray is now aimable, and it will poison enemies with the buffy. So I think this was a slow in Brawl Talk. I think they changed it, if I'm not mistaken. But Acid Spray, I don't know, it's a very gadget. I mean, at least it can deal extra damage with that poison for a wall. So it has potential to be pretty strong because it's a 12-second cooldown. But I just don't see a world, especially with how vulnerable Ems is in the meta in terms of all the assassins. I think Friend Zone has surely got to be the better buffy. So now let's move on to her star power. Starting off with her first one, Bad Karma. So Bad Karma will give you increased damage per hit with your main attack, but now it will also reduce the damage dealt by enemies by 15%. So when you're dealing damage to the opponent, so think of it kind of like Crow. If you're poisoning someone with his daggers, then for the next 4 seconds they deal a reduced amount of damage. So it's 15 seconds reduced damage, 15%, sorry, for 4 seconds. So yeah, so much information to go through, but I think this could be a pretty good one because with Ems, just needs any type of buff to her. Yeah, it's going to be a weird one to kind of work out because it's hard to see the value with these types of like abilities. Ems' star power number 2 is getting a buffy as well, Hype. So with Hype, it already heals people whenever people were within your super, but when you activate it, you will take no damage for 1 second. I think it pushes back people as well, but 1 whole second of invincibility looks pretty strong to me. Yeah, it's a pretty weird ability to have with Ems, to be honest. I'll be interested to see which one is better overall. I still probably see Bad Karma being better overall just because of the star power being better than Hype. But we'll have to wait and see. Both of them look pretty strong. And then finally for Ems, we have her hypercharge buffy. So the hypercharge buffy, the sprays will poison the enemies, I think for 4 poison ticks or 3, which will be around 1,200 plus damage, 1,600 extra damage per attack, which seems pretty good. I don't think the poison stacks, so just kind of like Crow's poison. You're not just going to completely delete people with this hypercharge, but it's still the extra bit of damage. It's still stopping people from healing, especially with Ems. I think all of these things combined will make Ems a pretty strong brawler. I don't want to say like S tier just yet, but maybe, because this Friend Zoner gadget has potential to be broken. So again, I'm going to probably predict at least an A tier here. I think all of the brawlers receiving these buffies are going to be very, very strong in the meta for sure. And yeah, Ems is no exception. Definitely I see an Ems meta coming. And finally, I'm going to quickly talk about Gigi's hypercharge. So Gigi's hypercharge will take 2.85 supers to charge up, so pretty fast charging. And with the hypercharge ability, so normally with her super, you only deal damage when you recall your super back to your position, but with the hypercharge super, you'll deal damage on impact and when leaving as well. So that's a lot of damage just racked up really quickly. So I can definitely see this being a pretty strong hypercharge. I think like mechanically it's pretty boring. I could have probably came up with some more fun ideas, but it's going to be a pretty strong one because it's just a lot of damage in total with her super. You pair this with 2 buffs as well. I think that Gigi is going to be a pretty strong brawler in the meta after all of these changes. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. So much content to cover. Probably would have missed out a few things. I'm sorry if I did. But again, when the update drops, I promise you I'll do my best to break down the meta as soon as possible. So much to go through. I'm very excited. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.